This is a VOD review for Swift Tortoise on Darius top lane. Main focus here is going to be mostly mid-late game, with just a little commentary over early game about just kind of general things. Summoner-wise, you go teleport. I've been seeing a lot of top laners go ignite, so we'll focus on when and how to use TP, and your runes seem perfectly fine to me, so not really allowed to go over there. Your matchup is against Quinn, who's a little poke heavy. So you take Doran Shield. Pretty straightforward. Anything kind of poke heavy. Gnar, Quinn, any sort of ranged. It's generally what you run into them. You play the early perfectly fine. You make sure to play a little passive, not take too much poke here. And just get level 3. Get your big power spikes when you hit level 3. Look to, start doing big trades. Get the 5-stack passive. 5-stack bleed passive. One big thing I'd like to look for, I always like to look for it in every top laner, is just to, respect jungle pressure. Because sometimes, depending on the jungler, I don't think Garen is much of a threat, but I think it's just good practice to always make sure to have a ward up at about 2 minutes and 40 seconds, either in River or in Tri-Brush, depending on where you're at in the lane. Where you're at right now would definitely be like a Tri-Brush ward. And the rest of this play is pretty straightforward here early. You just kind of farm. Quinn backs here, which is super weird. You kind of just deny her a bunch of minions, get an XP advantage. I'd like to see you try to leverage this as soon as she gets back in the lane. By trying to thin this wave out and then posturing kind of a little more aggressively. I'd like to, see you look for a combo before looking to back here. But she ends up kind of overstaying and not paying a ton of attention. Kane just walks straight through a Warden Gangster. Not exactly sure you needed a flash here to get the kill, but it's not a huge deal. You end up ult executing perfectly fine. You end up shoving here and then backing. That way you can spend your gold. Tab Eye's a good purchase. What I have noticed is a lot of top laners will just build Tab Eye no matter what against an AD champion. If it's a more Bruiser-esque champion, Nasus is getting played a lot now. Tab Eye actually don't do a whole lot for you. And so instead, I'd like to definitely see a Phage Buy here instead. Against, that kind of champion. But against Quinn, Gnar, anything like that, these Tab Eye are perfect. So you end up TPing bot here and picking up a kill. The one thing you have to be really careful about here, if this Quinn was at all smart, he'd hard shove this wave and get some damage down on your tower. And you end up losing your tower later on when you just straight walk bot, which is kind of weird out of nowhere. But instead of Quinn hard forcing, you guys end up just grabbing the wave. And pretty straightforward. I would like to see you in lane phase here with the level advantage you have, right? You're really, really big. You've got a level advantage and a item advantage here. I like to see you posture a lot more aggressively, and that cannot happen right here because the mini wave is coming in. Right? Even if your own wave's coming in, so their wave's coming in. And so you can't do it right at this very moment because of the minion wave, but the second the minion waves crash, you can look to posture much more aggressively. And also, when you have an advantage like this, I definitely like to see you thin this out a little bit as well, so you can posture aggressively. You're so far ahead, you really should just be looking to deny this guy any sort of farm, especially because your ult's up really soon. But instead, you're just letting the wave build up so big that you can't really do too much aggression here. Because if you do go aggressive, you have so many minions smacking on you. Right. Gung-ho with our ult, but it ends up working. Posture aggressively. It kind of worked because the minion wave, had met and only, half it aggroed onto you. Just gotta be a little careful about minion aggro. Other than that, perfectly fine. You go to shove once you get a kill. Pretty straightforward. This pathing's really weird to me. Because you're pathing down to bot lane that has already, had the fight happen. Quinn's still top. You don't have your TP up yet. And so this is a hard commit on bot lane. So even though this works, this is actually really bad. Because if Quinn decides to hard shove and just takes your tower, even if you get 2 kills, that tower basically evens the gold out. And so I would generally almost never recommend this. This is such a hard roam to actually pull off and actually net up. The only reason it really works is because Quinn is just so slow at shoving this wave top. He's so indecisive, just doesn't seem to know what he's doing very much. And you guys end up like hard committing to try to get the tower, just get poked off and die. And you're like the only reason this tower stays up is because Anivia had TP. If there was no TP there, again, your tower goes down and you actually net down from the roam. So something really be careful about, really think about, and make sure it's a guaranteed roam for just more than kills. If this was a roam to pick up some kills and to look for like Infernal Drake, or you guys roamed and, you know, you got kills and actually got a tower, again, acceptable. But just to roam and pick up like 2 assists, because all you got was 2 assists. 2 kills for your team doesn't really make that roam worth anything. So same thing happens. You go aggressive on the Quinn, you just kind of kill him. I really like that you actually keep your ult up here. And then, because you just killed top lane, this TP almost makes sense. So if we go back and we kind of watch bot lane, right? Really important as a top laner, right? Boom, Q's hit. We go look at bot. Oh, they're fighting. Really, if you're going to TP to a lane that's fighting, you really have to TP on the farthest up minion instead of back here. So like a TP here would have been a lot better. But you end up waiting a little longer, and you can kind of already see that this fight's kind of done. They've already decommitted to it. And so this TP's not really going to net you anything. Like, we can already tell that all the way back here. That's not going to net you anything. And that's just because they haven't committed to the fight, right? If this is a TP all the way down here, and they're committing onto your laners up here, that's a perfect TP kind of situation. You always want to TP behind the laners you're TPing into. Pretty much every time, you know, if there was like a Warden try over here, that'd be acceptable too. Instead, you kind of just TP down and they just kind of walk away. And it's really awkward because you end up, right, just taking a ton of damage, and your Kasai actually still manages to get picked. Which, I mean, part of that's on your Kasai, just being kind of an idiot, but they end up like hard overstaying, and you guys end up getting picks. But again, if we go back to like where the TP started, this doesn't really net you anything. If you were still top right now, you could have pressured down tower. You still had your ult, so you could have probably 1v2'd here. Or at least, you know, you still had your flash and everything. You could have definitely gotten away from this. And you guys wouldn't have lost this tower. Because again, it's all about like what happens when you do the roam, when you do the TP, kind of not so much what happens after, because what happens after, where your team comes and like randomly picks up shit, or like they just like you path bot and then it just so happens that they are able in a position to start a really good fight for your team. When you get down there, it doesn't really make it a good decision. What makes it a good decision is like thinking about what the immediate impact of that TP is gonna do, or what the immediate impact of that roam is gonna do, not like what ifs of what if my team finally fights, or like, you know, the bot lane's already decommitting. Like, what if, you know, they keep fighting? It's really important to kind of think like that when you're looking to roam. So you're 403, Black Cleaver, Ninja Tabai, you're absolutely huge here. I want to see you, instead of what you do here, because what you do is you end up kind of grouping with your team, and I'm okay with grouping. I just kind of want to see you generate a little more sprint pressure before you group, because you are so very large. Quinn's in a situation where you can basically just straight up dive her under tower. Very hard for them to 1v2 or 2v1 you. And so you're in a position where you can just basically sit top and just start taking towers, taking objectives. Instead, you kind of group and just pick up some kills. Outside of the Herald here. The Herald, grouping for Herald is always great. Because right here, you guys end up almost getting you do get 2 towers. Then you guys bail, you back, you buy. Unfortunately, no, you got tons of money. I'm not sure how much of a fan I am of Righteous Glory's second item. I'd almost like a Randuin's here, because you have a crit build AD carry. You've got Garen, who's building full AD. You've got a Quinn who's building full AD. I'd like to see something a little more front-loaded with armor. But Righteous Glory maybe as a third item here completely makes sense. Righteous Glory is purely a chase tool, and you don't seem to be struggling too much to get people and keep on people. And so, again, because like you're grouped here, again, you're playing like a champion, you know, that doesn't really have TP. I really want to see you, or like a champion who's behind and just desperately needs to group, because when you are behind a little bit, generally you want to group instead of split, instead of kind of, you know, generating pressure in a side lane. You guys just took a bunch of AoE here. So here's kind of where the fall happens. So it's really important to note that you are pretty chunked already. Garen's your full HP. Jinx is your full HP. Brand's here for HP. Right, you see all three of them. This is purely your team's vision. And so you're kind of just like tunneled on like maybe getting jinxed or something. You've been chunked out even more. It's definitely time to get out. Instead, you get chunked even more and you're so tunneled on jinx, you let Garen literally just walk up and execute you. And so it's really important to not have that kind of thing happen because you're 5-1-4. You know, if we go back just a hair and look at the team goal, 25.5, 26.4. Your death was worth almost 1,000 gold to their team right there. And so you have to be really careful when you are in this situation where you are snowballing, where you do have this huge streak going on, this huge spree going on, that you don't just die for no reason. Because when you do that, it just funnels a huge amount of gold over to the enemy team between the kill and the assist gold. So not the biggest deal in the world, it's not going to completely lose you the game here. You do have almost enough money for Righteous, which is kind of unfortunate. Thankfully, your team kind of picks up the scraps every time, which ends up being really good. You do have TP up. If your team does decide to pressure here, that would be something to look to TP for, but they don't. So you come grab top wave, big fatty wave, and this is kind of like Quinn, even though she's super far behind, does some really good things because she gets top pushing and then leaves. And so you just have these fat waves crashing on a tower and doing a bunch of tower damage and forcing you guys to deal with them. Whereas you generally don't really do much of that here. So now you finally decide to do some split pressure. And it's really important when you do this split pressure to pay attention to map. Who's on the map, who's not, where do you think people could be. If we look here, Jinx is mid, Leona's bot, Quinn's top. We have two unknowns. Not really terribly worried. You've got Anivia here. You're both really fed. But just see how much pressure you have. Like, you walk up and Quinn completely runs away. And you kind of just get to take tower. Unfortunately, afterwards, though, you haven't really been paying attention to the map. You're not really 100% sure where anyone is. You know where Quinn is. You know where Leona is, but you don't know where anyone else is. And you kind of just get dogpiled here. I think. Yeah. Right, you don't die, but you do get chunked out. It makes it very hard for you to continue to pressure, right? You can look to back, you can look to maybe TP, but this would be an area where I would definitely like to see you look to TP and to help your team here. Like so much earlier. Instead, you kind of just walk up here. You got a mini wave like over here, which is a little far away. I get that, but you kind of just walk this entire time, even when your TP's up. You got a ward here, not ideal. You got a mini wave, like, all the way up here. Again, not ideal, but, like, at this very moment, this is not a terrible TP. You just kind of want to get back to your team, right? And so, that's kind of where this TP comes in a lot of handy. Your team just kind of shits the bed here, though. It's a little rough. Again, not the end of the world, though. You guys actually don't even, like, really come close to losing here. You guys let them even up the gold, which is really unfortunate. You are stacking up a lot. I don't know if that's because you don't know what brand ult does. But you end up stacking up here. This is the third time you do this where you just kind of like literally stack up to where brand ult gets like max bounces off of you and an ally. And you do it like every time he throws the ult. And so it hurts you guys so bad because it's getting so much more damage than it should off. And then you share brand passive with your poor Kayn too. You guys come and get Dragon, which I'm totally okay with. I also like to point out, it's 23 minutes in, and you have 126 CS. Yeah, the CS is all pretty low here, but ideally you want to be near 200 right now, and that's a lot of just side wave management, just kind of going, cleaning up the wave, getting it pushing, or actually pressuring the, when you're ahead like this, actually pressuring side waves just constantly. Because when you pressure side waves, it does a lot more than just, pressure one person. It can force a lot of reactions from a lot of different people on the enemy team. And that's kind of your goal. So here, you guys try to pressure Baron. And you're just kind of super desync from your team. Because if you notice your team's all the way back here and you're all the way up here, you do not have to commit to this engage. You've already popped Righteous Glory, right? You really want to go in. You guys are super far ahead. You really want to fight, even though you guys aren't like super, super far ahead. Because they've gotten just like a ton of shutdown gold. And so that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the only way they're in. You try to like full commit. You cancel your W here. Or you cancel an auto here. And you go and just get super chunked and just die again. And so the initial part of this fight almost looks really good, and then you guys just get trashed again. And again, Brandel just kind of stops you. And so this is also kind of the story of what happens with you this game is you end up going in a lot, kind of separated from your team all on your own. And really what you are is you're a big threat frontliner. And you should be acting like a big threat frontliner. You shouldn't be doing just a suicide dive like you're some sort of assassin. It just doesn't end up working very well most of the time. So again, like, you guys just kind of you guys just kind of do the same thing over and over again. You group, you die, it's terrible. You guys end up getting 2 picks here, which is really good. Unfortunately, a Baron, which basically is going to completely stall your pressure here. And then you just, like, mad disrespect TP here to try to go, you know, kind of, like, deal with this split pushing Garen. And you end up getting heavily chunked. Alistar ends up kind of getting forced to engage. You're, you know... Again, you walk up super far forward, like under tower, basically. And just take a ton of damage and just get picked. And so, again, I just kind of want to go over this again. I like slow-mo. I understand the knee-jerk, like, wanting to TP top. But, right, you're TPing literally in Vision of Leona, who has multiple ways to stop them. And, like, maybe this is some, like, bait you're thinking of. But you already see Anivia TPing as well. Everyone's, like, you know, trying to back. You guys are just so desynced because of it. And then, I'm not exactly sure why you're fishing to get in under tower here to try to get on the Jinx. You just throw a random Q and lose 2/3 of your health under tower. You never want to position yourself under tower just to tank it. You know? It's kind of one of those things where... it's just not going to end very well for you. And then you're also prioritizing building MR here, but the only person who does magic damage is Bran. And so if you just, like, target him in a fight, you can just prioritize building basically pure armor and completely ignoring him. Or just building a very large health pool. Helps as well. I like to see, right, because they've got basically double AD carries between Quinn and Jinx, and then they've got Garen who built a ton of AD. So armor is triple effective versus literally single effective. And so I would like to see actually 2 armor items before you prioritize building MR at this point in the game. And then you're trying to kind of get deep in here. You guys pick up Bran. You guys are going to go try to stop Garen. He flashes. And then at this point, they just got a very snowballing comp. Even though it looks like you guys are ahead, you're actually not. They have 4 more towers. They're up, you know, 3.6k gold at this point, 3.5, something like that. So they definitely are actually in the driver's seat now. Again, you guys actually get a pretty good pick here. And then it's just the act of overcommitting again is what happens right here, because you end up overcommitting for Jinx. What I would like to see is you, again, kind of work more front to back, kind of like actually try to be a frontliner instead of doing this crazy dive. Because you're doing this crazy dive, right? Garen's up on the side here. Brandon Quinn end up just being able to hammer your back line. And then it's just you on your own in the back just getting just hammered by multiple people. And so this is something that, right? Okay, initial commit, great. But once your CC has missed, just commit to keeping people off your carries. You can start to look for a dive once, right? The way Darius passive works is you... One moment. So what I would like to see here is more of a commit to peeling for your carries over committing to try to dive their carries, because the way your passive works is once you get up to 5 stacks on someone, any of your skills for the next like 6 seconds Okay, it gives full stacks. So once you have 5 stacks on one person, if you hit another person within 6 seconds with an auto, a Q, a W, anything, it will automatically bump them all the way up to 5 stacks. So generally, like the way Darius is played in team fights, is you will just work kind of front to back initially, right? Like you'd get five hammered stacks on the Garen, and then you would look to then potentially like hook Jinx in, auto, W, and then ult, because that should be enough damage altogether to just kind of nuke Jinx down. And so that's kind of what you're looking for here. In any of these fights, really. That way, it doesn't take all this time to drop him. He gets auto attacks off. And then they kind of just win from here. They end up taking 2 inhibs, taking a bunch of your base. Dragon Baron. Unfortunately, you're relegated to just basically wave management duty. And I just want to point out, basically, you haven't TP'd in the last, like, 15 minutes. And so, the way we want to prioritize things, again, is we don't really want to, like, flash to try to, like, pick a Garen here very much. We don't want to flash to pick up, like, a frontline. We want to try to get on one of these priority targets. Like, I'd like to see, a flash, auto W, Q, hook Quinn back in when she tries to bump off you, and then alter. I'd like to see something like that instead. You do flash hook, and then just like brand ult here, just to absolutely destroy you guys again. And the way you work around that is just position yourself off to the side instead of, grouping up on the rest of your team, and you guys kind of just die here. So, early game, ward up just a little more. Nothing too terribly bad. Try to prioritize actually using your TP advantage versus Ignite laners instead of, just sitting on it for as long as you do. Be very, very careful when you roam, when you look to TP. You have to be TPing behind the lane or really be thinking that there's like an objective down there to go get. We're not going to roam from top lane to bot lane without TP unless there's like an Infernal Drake down there and the enemy bot lane is already low and yours is healthy and they're already kind of looking for a dive and you're kind of the last thing you need to kind of commit to doing that. And when you do TP, you really have to TP behind the lanes. You can't just, TP kind of as a fight's happening, kind of in the middle of the fight, because then they can just decommit like they did in this game. And then mid-late game, generally, I like to see you pressure side lanes more, especially when you get advantage like this, because you played the early game pretty clean for the most part. You got a huge advantage, and then you never forced them to make a decision to like 3-man dogpile you, or just let you split and take towers and then try to win 4v4s when they're already super far behind. You let them take full 5v5 fights, and they ended up playing them just a little better, and it kind of hurt you guys. I'm not against you grouping. I'm just against you not using your lead in a side lane to at least get like tier 2s, maybe pressure inhibs, maybe force a couple of bad decisions on them trying to just like 2-man dogpile you because you're Darius, you just kind of stomp them, that kind of thing. I really want to see that. And then when you get more into like the end of mid game into late game, I want to see you more be this like be that actual front line where you're not looking for these crazy dives on carries. You're looking to just make sure that they don't get on your carry, get the 5 hemorrhage stacks on someone, and then potentially look to do that like flash hook, auto W ult, dive, Just get that 5 hemorrhage stack built up. That way your next skill, just 5 hemorrhage stacks on the next, on anyone you hit with any of your skills. And then potentially look for when the AD carry oversteps, when he's trying to poke, hook him in, just blow him up, or just flash auto W, blow him up. That kind of thing. That's really what you want to look for. So hopefully this helps you. If you have any other questions, feel free to message me on the LOL Coaching website. And hopefully this helps, man.